I found out my stepfather had been siphoning money from my inheritance and gaslighted my mother for years, and he decided to confess everything 20 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. There's something almost surreal about the moments right before a wedding. The air feels different, charged with anticipation, and the kind of nervous energy that makes your skin tingle. I had spent 18 months planning every detail of this day, from the hand-embroidered lace on my dress to the specific shade of dusk roses in my bouquet. Everything was supposed to be perfect. Everything was supposed to be the beginning of my happily ever after with Damien, the man who had shown me what unconditional love actually looked like. Instead, I was standing in a small dressing room at the back of St. Michael's Church, my hands trembling so badly that my maid of honor, my cousin Rachel, had to repin a section of my hair 3 times. The room was filled with the scent of flowers and the distant murmur of guests taking their seats, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. "Just breathe, Olivia," Rachel said, her hands resting on my shoulders. "In 10 minutes, you're going to walk out there and marry the love of your life. Focus on that." I nodded, trying to smile, but something felt wrong. It felt wrong all morning, a creeping sense of dread that I couldn't shake. I told myself it was just pre-wedding jitters. Everyone gets them. But deep down, I knew it was something else. It was the way my stepfather, Graham, had been avoiding eye contact with me all week. It was the way my mother kept glancing at him with this strange, almost fearful expression. It was a nagging feeling that the foundation of my family was built on something unstable, something that was about to crumble. And then there was a knock at the door. "Olivia, can I speak with you for a moment?" It was Graham's voice, but it sounded different, subdued, almost hesitant. Rachel looked at me, her eyebrows raised. "Do you want me to stay?" I shook my head. Whatever this was, I needed to face it alone. Graham had raised me since I was 7 years old. He had been the one to teach me how to ride a bike, to help me with my algebra homework, to walk me through the panic of my first heartbreak. If there was one person I thought I could trust implicitly, it was him. "Come in," I said, smoothing the front of my dress. The door opened, and Graham stepped inside. He was dressed in his tuxedo, looking every bit the distinguished father of the bride, but his face was ashen. His eyes, usually so warm and reassuring, were hollow. He closed the door behind him and stood there for a long moment, just staring at me. "Graham?" I prompted. "What's wrong? Is it Mom? Is she okay?" "Your mother is fine," he said quietly. She's out there waiting." "Then what is it?" The dread in my stomach intensified. "You're scaring me." He took a breath, and I watched him age 10 years in that single moment. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. And I need to tell you now, before you walk down that aisle. Because I can't let you start your new life without knowing the truth." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What truth?" "I've been having an affair." The words came out flat, clinical, as if he was reading them from a script. "For the past 4 years, with your mother's best friend, Patricia." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the dressing table to steady myself. Patricia, Aunt Patricia, who had been at every family gathering, every birthday, every holiday. Patricia, who had held my hand at my grandmother's funeral and sent me care packages when I was homesick at college. Patricia, who had stood beside my mother as her matron of honor when she married Graham. "No," I whispered. "No, that's not. You're lying. You have to be lying." I wish I was. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. And that's not all. Not all. My voice cracked. What else could there possibly be? He finally looked at me then, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood run cold. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was something darker, something I couldn't name, the money your father left you, the inheritance from your biological dad. I've been managing it for you, remember? Making sure it was invested properly, growing safely for your future. My father, my real father, David, who had died when I was 6 years old. He hadn't been wealthy by any means, but he had been careful, prudent. He had left behind a life insurance policy and some savings, enough to give me a modest nest egg for college, for a down payment on a house, for the kind of security he couldn't provide in person. When Graham adopted me, he had taken over managing those funds. It made sense at the time. He was a financial advisor. After all, he knew what he was doing. What about it? I asked, though I already knew. I could feel the truth creeping up on me like a shadow. It's gone. Most of it, anyway. He said it so casually, as if he was telling me he'd misplaced my car keys. I made some poor investments, bad decisions. I thought I could turn it around, make it grow faster than your father ever could have. But it didn't work out that way. And then, when the losses started mounting, I had to cover them. I had to take more. It was like a hole I couldn't stop digging. You stole from me. The words were barely audible. You stole my father's money. The only thing he left me. I didn't mean to. You stole from me. This time I shouted it, my voice echoing off the walls of the small room. For years, you sat across from me at dinner. You hugged me on my birthdays. You called me your daughter, and all that time you were stealing from me. I was trying to protect you. His voice rose to match mine, and for a moment, I saw a flash of the controlling man I had always sensed beneath the surface. The man who had opinions about every choice I made, from what I studied in school to which friends I kept. The man who had subtly, consistently made sure I never felt quite capable of standing on my own. I didn't want you to have to worry about money. I wanted you to focus on your life, on your future. If I had told you about the losses, you would have been devastated. You would have lost faith in me. I have lost faith in you. I was shaking now, tears streaming down my face, probably ruining the makeup that had taken 2 hours to apply. You destroyed it. You and Patricia and the money and all the lies. How could you? How could you stand there and pretend to love me? I do love you. He reached for me, and I flinched away. Olivia, I know this is hard to hear, but I do love you. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but that doesn't change how I feel about you. Don't. I held up my hand, backing away until I hit the wall. Don't you dare. You don't get to say that. Not now. He stood there for a long moment, and then something shifted in his expression. The guilt faded, replaced by something that looked almost like resignation. Or maybe it was relief. Like he had finally unburdened himself of a weight he'd been carrying for too long. I understand if you're angry, he said quietly. I understand if you never want to speak to me again. But I had to tell you, I couldn't let you start your marriage with this lie hanging over us. You should have thought about that before you spent the last 4 years sleeping with my mother's best friend and stealing my inheritance. I was crying so hard now that I could barely breathe. Get out. Just get out. He nodded slowly, and for a moment I thought he might argue. But then he turned and walked out the door, leaving me alone in my wedding dress, my carefully constructed world in ashes around me. I don't know how long I stood there. It might have been seconds. It might have been hours. Time had lost all meaning. All I could think about was my father, my real father, and how he had worked so hard to give me something secure. All I could think about was Graham, the man who had raised me, and how thoroughly he betrayed every ounce of trust one had ever placed in him. And then there was another knock at the door. Liv. Rachel's voice was tentative. Everything okay? The coordinator says it's time. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My face was blotchy, my eyes swollen, my carefully applied makeup a disaster. I looked like someone who had just been told their entire life was a lie, because that's exactly what had happened. I opened the door. Rachel took one look at me and gasped. "Oh my God, what happened? What did he say to you?" "He told me the truth." My voice was hollow. All of it. The affair with Patricia. The money. Everything. Rachel's face went pale. "The money? What money?" "My inheritance. From my dad. He stole it." Saying it out loud made it feel more real, more devastating. "He's been stealing from me for years, Rachel. And he waited until today to tell me. He waited until I was standing here in my wedding dress to drop this on me. That monster." Rachel's eyes blazed with fury. "I'm going to kill him. I'm going to find him right now and—" "Don't." I grabbed her arm. "Don't. I can't deal with that right now. I have to walk down the aisle. Damien is waiting." "Liv, you can't walk down the aisle like this. You're shaking. You're crying. You need a minute." "I don't have a minute." I took a deep breath, then another, try and compose myself. "I've been waiting for this day for 18 months. Damien has been waiting. Everyone is out there, expecting a wedding. I can't let Graham ruin this too." But as I said it, I realized there was no way I could let Graham walk me down the aisle. Not after what he'd done. Not after he'd shattered every memory I had of our life together. I couldn't take his arm. Couldn't let him pretend to be the proud father. Couldn't let him have that moment. It would be a lie, just like everything else had been a lie. "I need someone else," I said suddenly. "I need someone to walk me down the aisle. I can't do it alone, and I can't let Graham do it." Rachel nodded immediately. "Your Uncle Martin. He's here. He's sitting in the third row. Uncle Martin, my father's younger brother. The man who had been a constant presence in my life, even after Dad died, even after Mom married Graham. He had never tried to replace my father, had never pushed himself into the role of substitute parent. He had simply been there, quietly supportive, always ready with a kind word or a listening ear. He was the one who had taught me to fish, who had taken me to baseball games, who had sat with me on the anniversaries of my father's death and let me talk about my memories until I had no tears left. "Find him," I said. "Bring him here. Please." Rachel ran. I turned back to the mirror and tried to fix my face, dabbing at the ruined makeup of the tissue, but it was hopeless. I looked like I had been through a war. In a way, I had. When Uncle Martin appeared in the doorway, his face was a mixture of concern and confusion. Rachel must have told him something, because he didn't ask questions. He just opened his arms, and I walked into them, crying against his chest like I was 6 years old again, just learning that my father was never coming home. Hey, he murmured, his hand rubbing my back. "It's okay. Whatever it is, it's okay." "It's not okay," I sobbed. "Nothing is okay. Graham, he had an affair with Patricia for years, and he stole my inheritance, Dad's money. It's all gone, Uncle Martin. All of it." I felt him stiffen, felt the anger ripple through his body. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. "We'll deal with that. We'll deal with all of it. But right now, you have a wedding to get to. And I would be honored, more honored than I can say, to walk you down that aisle." I pulled back and looked at him. His eyes were wet, but he was smiling. It was the same smile my father had in the few photographs I had of him. The same kindness in his face. "You don't have to explain anything to me," he said. "You don't have to tell me what happened. Just let me be here for you. That's what your dad would have wanted." And so, 10 minutes later, I walked down the aisle on Uncle Martin's arm. I could feel the whispers rippling through the congregation as people realized Graham wasn't there. I could see my mother's face, confused and slightly panicked, searching the crowd for her husband. I could see Graham's daughters, my stepsisters Vanessa and Brooke, staring at me with expressions that shifted from confusion to anger. They didn't know what had happened. They only knew that their father had been replaced, and they were not happy about it. But I kept my eyes on Damien. Damien, who was looking at me with such love, such unwavering support, that I felt some of the shattered pieces of my heart begin to knit back together. He didn't know what had happened either, but he could see that something was wrong. I could tell by the way his brow furrowed slightly, the way his eyes searched mine for answers. But he didn't question it. He just took my hand when Uncle Martin placed it in his, and he held on like he would never let go. The ceremony was a blur. I said my vows, heard Damien say his, felt the weight of the ring on my finger. But my mind was elsewhere, cycling through everything Graham had told me. Try to process the enormity of his betrayal. By the time we were pronounced husband and wife, I was running on autopilot, smiling when I was supposed to smile, kissing when I was supposed to kiss. The reception was worse. I could feel the tension in the air like electricity before a storm. My mother cornered me almost immediately. "Olivia, where is Graham? What happened? Why did Martin walk you down the aisle?" I looked at her, this woman who had been my mother for my entire life, and I wonder how much she knew. Had she suspected the affair? Had she known about the money? Or was she as much a victim of his lies as I was? "Mom, I can't talk about this right now," I said. "It's my wedding day. I just want to enjoy it." "Enjoy it?" Her voice rose. "Your stepfather is missing, and you want to enjoy it? People are talking, Olivia. They're wondering what's going on. Vanessa and Brooke are furious. They think you deliberately humiliated their father." I didn't deliberately do anything. The exhaustion in my voice was palpable. Graham made choices. Those choices have consequences. That's all I'm going to say right now. I walked away, leaving her standing there with her mouth open. I found Damien at the bar, and he wrapped an arm around me immediately. "You want to get out of here?" he asked quietly. "We can leave. We can go to the hotel right now. No one would blame you." I shook my head. "If I leave now, they'll think I'm guilty. They'll think I did something wrong. I need to stay. I need to show them that I'm not the one who should be ashamed." So I stayed. I danced with Damien, posed for photos, made small talk with guests who had no idea that my world had collapsed just hours earlier. And all the while, I could feel the stares. My stepsisters huddled in a corner, whispering furiously and shooting daggers at me with their eyes. My mother, drifting to the crowd like a ghost, her confusion slowly turning to something harder. And Graham, nowhere to be seen. He had left the church, I later learned, just gotten in his car and driven away, abandoning his wife, his daughters, and any pretense of being a family man. The next morning, the messages started. Vanessa was the first. "How could you do that to Dad? He raised you. He loved you. And you humiliated him in front of everyone. Then Brooke, you're selfish. You've always been selfish. I hope you're happy destroying this family." And then, worse for my mother, "Olivia, we need to talk. But I need you to be honest with me. What really happened? Graham says you've been holding a grudge against him for years. He says you've never accepted him as your real father, and this was your way of getting back at him." I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. He was already spinning the narrative, already making himself the victim. And my mother, my own mother, was believing him. I called Uncle Martin. He answered on the first ring. "I know," he said before I could speak. "Your mother called me. She's not in a good place, Liv. Graham went home last night, and they had a huge fight. He told her some version of events that painted you as the villain. She doesn't know what to believe. I need to talk to her. I need to tell her the truth. Will she listen? He's had years to groom her, to make her dependent on him. She might not be ready to hear it." I have to try. She's my mother. So I went to see her. I drove to the house I'd grown up in, the house where Graham had raised me, and I sat in the driveway for a long time, trying to find the courage to go inside. When I finally did, I found my mother in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished somehow. Mom. She looked up, and for a moment, I saw a flash of the woman she used to be, the woman who had held me when I cried for my father, the woman who had worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. But then it was gone, replaced by something guarded and wary. Olivia. Her voice was flat. I wasn't sure you'd come. Of course I came. You're my mother. She gestured to the chair across from her, and I sat, the silence stretched between us, heavy with everything unsaid. Graham told me what happened, she finally said. He told me about the argument you had before the ceremony. He said you accused him of terrible things that aren't true. Mom, did he tell you what those things were? Did he tell you he confessed to having an affair with Patricia? Did he tell you he admitted to stealing my inheritance? She flinched. I saw it, a tiny movement, quickly suppressed. He said you were upset. He said you've been holding on to resentment for years, and it all came out at the worst possible moment. He said you made up those accusations to hurt him, to punish him for not being your real father. I felt something inside me crack. Not break, but crack, like ice on a frozen lake. Mom, look at me. Really look at me. Do you believe that? Do you honestly believe I would make up something like that on my wedding day? Do you think I'm capable of that kind of cruelty? She didn't answer. She just sat there, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup, and I realized with a sickening lurch that she didn't know what to believe. She was torn between the man she had loved for 18 years and the daughter she had raised. And Graham, the master manipulator, had made sure the choice wasn't easy. I can prove it, I said quietly. Not the affair, not yet, but the money. I can get the bank records. I can show you where it went. He's been siphoning funds for years, Mom. He left me with almost nothing. And if you do that, she said slowly, if you prove he took the money, then what happens to us? What happens to our family? I stared at her, understanding dawning. It wasn't that she didn't believe me. It was that she was afraid to believe me. Because if she believed me, she would have to face the truth. She would have to accept that her husband, the man she had built her life around, was a liar and a thief. She would have to tear everything down and start over. And she didn't know if she had the strength. I can't make this choice for you, I said. I can only tell you the truth. Graham betrayed both of us. He lied to you for years, and he stole from me. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen just to make things easier. I deserve better than that. And so do you. I left her sitting there, still clutching her cold coffee, and I drove home to Damien. He was waiting for me, and when I walked through the door, he just held me. He didn't ask questions. He didn't offer solutions. He just held me, and that was exactly what I needed. The weeks that followed were a blur of lawyers and bank statements and sleepless nights. I hired an attorney, a sharp woman named Detective Reyes, who specialized in financial fraud. She pulled records, traced transactions, built a case. It turned out Graham hadn't just taken my inheritance. He had taken money from other clients, too, people who had trusted him with their savings, their retirement funds, their children's college money. He had been running a quiet Ponzi scheme for years, using new investments to pay off old losses, and my inheritance had been just one of many accounts he had raided. When the news broke, it was like a bomb went off in our community. Clients came forward, their stories adding layer upon layer to the growing mountain of evidence. Graham was arrested at his office, let out in handcuffs while his co-workers watched in shock. The photo of him, looking small and defeated in his expensive suit, was on the front page of the local paper. My mother called me that night. She was crying. "I didn't know," she said. "Olivia, I swear to you I didn't know. I thought he was a good man. I thought he loved us. I know, Mom." And I did know. I knew, because I had thought the same thing for 18 years. I had trusted him, loved him, believed in him. His betrayal wasn't just hers to carry. It was mine too. "Can you ever forgive me," she whispered, "for not believing you, for choosing him over you, even for a moment?" I thought about it. I thought about all the pain, all the anger, all the nights I had cried myself to sleep wondering if I would ever have my mother back. And then I thought about the woman on the other end of the line, the woman who had held me when I was small, who had worked herself to exhaustion to give me a good life, who had made mistakes but had never stopped loving me. "I can try," I said, "if you can try too. If you can promise me that from now on, we're honest with each other. No more secrets. No more choosing the easy lie over the hard truth." "I promise," she said. "I promise, Olivia. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." The next day, she showed up at my door with a suitcase. She stayed with us for 2 weeks, sleeping in our guest room, slowly finding her footing again. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years. She told me about her marriage to Graham, about the small signs she had ignored, the uneasy feelings she had pushed aside. She told me about her fear of being alone, of starting over at her age. And I told her about my own fears, my own struggles to trust again after what we had done. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, moments when old hurts resurfaced and threatened to undo all the progress we had made. But we kept talking, kept working at it, and slowly, painfully, we began to rebuild our relationship. Vanessa and Brooke came to see me too, about a month after Graham's arrest. They looked different, older somehow, as if the weight of their father's crimes had aged them overnight. "We're sorry," Vanessa said, her voice thick with tears. "We're so sorry for the things we said to you, for the texts, for the way we treated you at the wedding. We didn't know. Dad lied to us too. He told us you were jealous," Brooke added. "He said you'd always resented him for adopting you, that you were just waiting for a chance to hurt him. We believed him because he was our father. We never thought he could be capable of something like this." I hugged them both, feeling the tension of the past months finally begin to dissolve. "It's not your fault. You didn't know. None of us knew. We want to make it right," Vanessa said. "We want to be your sisters again. If you'll let us." I looked at these 2 women, my stepsisters, who had been part of my life for 18 years. We had grown up together, fought over the bathroom, shared secrets in the dark. Graham's betrayal had threatened to tear us apart, but it didn't have to. We could choose differently. "I'd like that," I said. "I'd really like that." The trial was 6 months later. Graham was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. I didn't attend the sentencing. I had said everything I needed to say in my victim impact statement, and I didn't need to see him again. Some chapters, I had learned, were better left closed. My mother sold the house. She couldn't bear to live there anymore, surrounded by memories of a marriage that had been built on lies. She moved into a small apartment in the city, close to me and Damien, and she started seeing a therapist to help her process everything she had been through. It was slow going, but she was trying. That was all I could ask for. As for me, I found a new kind of peace. The money was gone, most of it unrecoverable, but I didn't miss it as much as I thought I would. My father's legacy wasn't in a bank account. It was in the memories my uncle had kept alive, the stories he told, the way he looked at me sometimes and said, "You've got your dad's smile." It was in the strength I had discovered in myself, the resilience that had carried me through the darkest days of my life. Damien and I celebrated our first anniversary quietly at home with takeout and a bottle of wine. We talked about the future, about the family we wanted to build, about the kind of life we want to create together. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I had almost forgotten: hope. My Uncle Martin calls me every Sunday. We talk about everything and nothing, about baseball and books and the little things that make up a life. He's the closest thing I have to a father now, and I'm okay with that. He never tried to replace my dad. He just made sure I never forgot him. Last week, my mother came over for dinner. Vanessa and Brooke were there too, and for a few hours, we were just a family. Not a perfect family, not the kind you see in movies, but a real one, flawed and healing and learning to trust again. After dinner, my mother pulled me aside. "I want you to know something," she said. "I'm proud of you. The way you handled everything, the strength you showed. Your father will be proud too." I hugged her, and for a moment, I was 6 years old again, held in my mother's arms, safe and loved. The road ahead was still long, still uncertain, but we were walking it together. That's all any of us can do,